Hello and welcome. This is Eman. In this series of videos, I will be narrating my own playthrough of Project Zomboid Build 41. The build I am using is a jack of all, master of none. It cannot skip any steps between early and late game. Trait selection has been designed to minimally affect the plan of play, with positive traits that are mostly simple quality of life improvements, and negative traits that require very little adjustment on behalf of the player. A full list of trait selection for this build will be in the video description. If you'd like to see a dedicated video breaking down this build, or breaking down occupations and traits in general, let me know in the comment section below. The first order of business for any playthrough is to find a weapon, a general container, a water container, and enough food to keep you alive for the day. Always grab a can opener, and if you're playing with high thirst, like in this build, you'll want to grab a little bit extra when it comes to water containers. It's really important to sneak everywhere you go when you don't know where the zombies are, especially at the beginning of the game when you don't have a good selection of weapons or the skill built up to use them. Forks, spoons, and butter knives aren't really more effective when it comes to fighting zombies than fighting unarmed. However, they're still worth grabbing if you don't find anything better, because they help build up the maintenance skill, and you can still use them to clear out broken glass from windows just like any other weapon. It's usually a good idea to make use of the perishable foods as you find them, since after the power goes out, they're all going bad. If you're already full and you've got the storage space, you can take some of it with you. This is one of the reasons that I generally prefer the underweight negative traits instead of the overweight negative traits during character creation, as a lot of these perishable foods are high in calorie count, and I like to make use of them. You'll want to grab lightweight electronics as you find them, such as portable CD players and digital watches. Electronics 1 and mechanics 2 is what you need to hotwire cars. Unless you're a burglar. Burglars can skip this step entirely. Now, you'll notice that in this run, we didn't find a whole lot inside of our starting location. We don't have a good weapon at all, and we don't have a general container. This is really common when you select the burglar or the unemployed occupations, as your occupation determines your possible spawning locations. Now, when you see a vehicle spawned in front of your starting location like this, it's really common for there to be a key to that vehicle somewhere inside the building. And securing a vehicle is such a big deal in the early game that I'm going to go back inside and make sure I didn't miss it. No such luck. Now, at this point, we have a choice between trying to secure a general container or trying to find a better weapon. I happen to know that we are not too terribly far away from the high school, which is a place that we want to go anyway to try to get a specific magazine, How to Use Generators. I'm also expecting to find a school backpack there, but I really don't like going inside of big buildings like that without some kind of weapon better than, cutlery. For that reason, I'm inclined to give the neighbor's house a little look around, and it looks like we found exactly what we came here for. Now, we had selected Brawler in our character creation, which gives us access to a specialty in long blunt weapons as well as axes. Planks are a really common improvised long blunt weapon. They do moderate damage, have good range, they don't last too terribly long. The hammer has a good amount of durability. It's a one-handed short blunt weapon. We don't specialize in it, but it should meet our needs if we need it. Hopefully we won't need to go through too much of its durability before we can start using it as a tool later on. Keep your eyes peeled for cooking pots. You want to grab at least one. You can use them to collect rainwater, and you can also use them to boil river and lake water. Now you'll notice that I've macroed the griddle pan to the back of my character, and I manually equipped the planks into 2 hands. What this does is it makes it so that you have access to 2 larger weapons instead of 1. Once the plank breaks, it'll go back into my inventory, and I can hit 1 to pull out the griddle pan. Now, when that happens, the plank will no longer receive the weight reduction from being held in my hands. And so you want to make sure that you're not close to an unsafe limit when it comes to inventory capacity, so that you don't, get weighed down in the middle of a fight and lose your ability to start running if you need to. Now, on that note, I'm actually really close to capacity, and for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and start using the garbage bag in my secondary hand in order to act as a temporary improvised general container. This makes it so that I can't use the griddle pan on my back plank in 2 hands. I'm going to have to remacro the plank to my back, and I'll probably end up using the hammer for now instead of the plank, since equipping the plank at this point would drop the garbage bag into my main inventory, and I would lose the weight reduction from holding it in my hand. It won't be a huge deal. I'm right above the school right now. I should get a school backpack really, really soon. Now, whenever it's not too inconvenient, you want to check vehicles as you pass them by. You want to check their glove boxes for keys, and you want to check their trunks for gas canisters. You need one of both in order to get a working vehicle. Well, actually no. Vehicles can spawn with gas inside of their tanks, but it's really, really rare on apocalypse setting, so I wouldn't plan for it. When vehicles are locked like this, you can still get inside by smashing out the passenger side window. You can smash out the driver's side window too, but zombies can only attack you from the side of the vehicle that you are sitting in, and so it makes a lot more sense to go through the passenger side window instead. Make sure you have a weapon equipped when you do this, or else you can cut up your hand real bad. Also, do understand that it does make some noise. It will attract zombies if they're close by, and there is a chance that the car will be alarmed. Worst case scenario, you have to kite a whole bunch of them away from the area that you're in, or you have to retreat and come back later. Now, in this situation, I would much rather fight them outside of the building. I have no idea how many of them are in here right now, and combat makes noise, so it's going to pull any of them that are within earshot. Hear that banging? That is definitely because one of them heard us fighting. Now I'm going to go ahead and start scouting out the library. I'm just going to try to grab whatever magazines I happen to find. Hopefully I find the How to Use Generators magazine, and I might grab a few beginner level books. I don't have the space for any of the other books right now. Now, this is an example of mental blockage. I went up here to search through these lockers specifically to find a school bag. I pan over it twice without seeing it. Probably my mind is preoccupied with trying to make sure I'm not going to get ambushed by any zombies, And I'm also thinking too far ahead. I'm thinking about how I'm gonna store the books and magazines if I don't find a school bag. And so it locked up my brain, kept me from seeing the school bag right in front of me. Now this is a neat little trick to help you keep track of which books and magazines you've already looted, so that you don't accidentally grab more than one and have to sort through them later. Just expand the tab for the item before you put it into your inventory, and it will remain expanded for any loot container so long as the game remains open. If you restart the game, you'll want to go to whatever container you're storing all of your books in and manually expand each tab. Alright, we found the How to Use Generators magazine. This is easily the most important piece of reading material in the game. Electricians are the only occupation that do not need to find it. It should be a high priority for everybody else. You most often find them inside of schools or bookstores. Now that I've grabbed every beginner level skill book and magazine from the library, my focus is back on the school bag. I'm going to refill my water containers first in the restroom. I'm going to do a little door trick since I'm not positive that there's no zombies behind the door. And then I'm going to head upstairs since I think the banging that I was hearing earlier was coming from up there. My hope is that it's a student zombie with a school bag. If not, I'll check the lockers, and I probably won't miss it this time. Now, I'm probably actually okay fighting this one inside of the school, since I've scouted the area immediately around me. The sound that fighting makes doesn't travel too terribly far. It probably won't extend beyond where, like, the library is. Now this was a bit of a blunder. I should have gone outside before I decided to start transferring items from the garbage bag to the backpack. Not only that, I failed to hold still when I was trying to equip the backpack on my back. I was going to use the drag and drop method to drag everything from one container in my personal inventory to the next. Once I realized that I make the mistake, I went with the alternate method of dropping the backpack on the ground and using the transfer all button. This whole process took enough time that a group of zombies coming down a hall that I hadn't checked could have wandered up the stairs, attracted to the noise that the other zombie is making banging on that door. Or a group of zombies could have come around the corner, since I hadn't scouted that whole hallway either. Now, granted, either of those things happening right now is somewhat unlikely. However, if you take unnecessary risks like this enough times, the unlikely will happen. And since I'm already obviously not thinking too clearly, there's a chance it could have ended the run. Not too happy with myself over this blunder. Especially not after seeing these big groups of zombies just outside the door with the door wide open. Now, on the plus side, we did find everything we were looking for and a little bit extra. Finding that How to Use Generators magazine is usually its own task, and it's not especially rare, but it can be really hard to find. I've had to travel all the way around the map to find it before. Now, I'm about to switch gears here. There's really 3 different ways that you can deal with the fact that there's zombies all around you. There's going quiet, which is all that you've seen me doing so far. There's going passive, which is basically going from one spot to another, almost pretending like the zombies aren't there. You just walk around them, and you don't really care too much about the ones that are gathering behind you. You walk faster than they do, so probably they'll lose you by the time you get to where you're going. And then there's going loud, which is almost self-explanatory. Your goal when you're going loud is to gather a whole bunch of them into a ball, ideally, and then you pull them away from the place. Usually a place that you're trying to loot, or your base, or something like that. Right now, I'm trying to get to the sporting goods store. They have baseball bats and hockey sticks and other really good long blunt weapons. Now, the reason that I chose to come up here and hop over all these little fences instead of going straight up the street is because zombies take a lot longer than you do to get over the fence line. You can use them to casually put a lot of distance between you and them. I'm also going to put a building in between me and them so that hopefully they get caught up in it and they'll lose track of me before I get to where I'm going. Now, you don't want to be right next to a fence as the zombies hopping over it, as they've got this panicked little crawl animation they do as soon as they get to the other side, where they swipe at your feet and they crawl towards you a fair distance really fast. If you get hit by it, you'll probably get knocked over. It is possible to hit them before they do the animation where they swipe at your legs, but the timing is really, really tight. I don't think it's worth going for. Now, what I'm doing here is taking the water bottles from my main inventory and I'm putting them into my backpack. This will prevent you from automatically drinking from them, and it'll allow you to make use of other kinds of liquid, in this case the orange soda. It has a calorie count, and since I've got the lightweight trait, I want to use the calories from that soda. The character won't do it automatically. I'll have to manually drink from it when I'm thirsty. We're coming up on the sporting goods store now. I'm expecting I might have to start going loud if there's too many of them either following me or at the store. If not, then I'll just fight whatever's around, and then I'll start going quiet. It's important to note the moodlets in the top right-hand side of the screen. In this case, the character is a little hungry and is in extreme panic. What these moodlets do is they either reduce the damage that you do to the zombies, or they slow down all of your animations, including your walking speed. This can be really dangerous. Being able to judge what your character can and cannot handle at the time is a big part of this game. In general, when any moodlet is in an extreme state, it will really hinder your combat performance. The panic state is something that happens in the early game. Eventually, your character won't panic at all when dealing with zombies, but unless you have the bravery positive trait or the veteran occupation, every character has to deal with panic. The only way to get around it is to take beta blockers before you're fighting. We don't have any of those right now. Now, I am about to give up on this fight. I am not confident after that plank broke that I'm going to be able to fight this group with the hammer, given that I don't have any skill in short blunt weapons, and given the moodlets that are affecting us. I'm going to need to go loud, probably, in order to clear the area down south to prevent a group from following us up here again. Or at least not as big of a group. Now, I blundered right there. Walking into that tree was a big mistake. There's a possibility that there was a zombie on the other side, and walking through a tree like that can scratch you. And I am not in a good position to administer first aid right now. Now, I'm about to start going loud, which is a bit of a lengthy process. The goal is to gather pretty much all of them in the area, inside of houses, around corners, anywhere like that. I want to get them all chasing me so that I can bring them away from the sporting goods store. I'll admit that I don't do this perfectly. I'm going to go ahead and run it at ×2 speed, and I'll stop it when something interesting happens. Now, these little white fences are actually really good if you use them properly. I'm actually doing a really bad job right now. Hopping over fences over and over again like this is just splitting them up. It's making my job harder. I should have been out in the open a little more away from the fence lines so that the zombies don't get slowed down by them. It would keep them more clustered and easier to manage. You don't want to jump over the fences until you're trying to lose them. I'm trying to make sure that I get them all, but I could have done that in a way that doesn't split them up like this. And here you're seeing an attempt to transition from going loud to going quiet. I'm thinking that I have lost enough of them that I can fight the remainder of them. In hindsight, I should have definitely pulled the whole group of them further away before I started fighting. I'm just asking for a whole bunch of them to just come up and start trying to attack me while I'm in the middle of fighting. It wouldn't end the run, but it would be really frustrating and I'd have to start going loud again. Now, the reason for the manual pushing right here is that the weapons do a whole lot more damage when the zombie is on the ground. I don't recommend ever manually pushing when there's more than one of them. If you do a manual push, you can aim it just wrong and push the one that's not right in front of you, and the one right in front of you can get a swing on you and end the run. Swinging the weapon, on the other hand, pretty much always hits the one that's right in front of you. I've also never had a problem with the automatic push targeting the wrong zombie. Now, there's a plank behind me from the busted down door. I'm going to go ahead and equip it from the ground into both hands. Do keep in mind that I have the Dexterous trait on this character. That makes transferring items from any container to any container, including from the ground to your personal container, much faster. It's like ×2 or ×4 speed. A character without the Dexterous trait can obviously still do this kind of thing, but they need more space between them and the zombies. The negative moodlets are starting to pile up really bad. Even with the plank, because of the negative moodlets, I may need to start heading south and going loud again. As frustrating as that is, it's better than trying to fight them and getting myself killed. Being able to recognize your mistakes and adapt to the current situation is by far and wide one of the most important skills to hone in this game. Even if it means abandoning your current plans entirely and admitting to yourself that you made a bad judgment call, it's a lot better to accept that and learn on the fly before your character dies. Don't let your pride get you killed. Don't try to blame the game. Don't get mad at it. Just accept when you make mistakes and move on. This is a last-ditch effort. Trying to use the griddle pan after dealing with those negative moodlets, the hunger and the thirst ones specifically. I dealt with those on the fly while I was being chased by zombies. I'm coming around to the idea that the original plan was bad, and I'm about to start going loud and heading south again. Now, I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to dropping broken things on the ground. I like to put them on zombie corpses or in trash cans or places that I'm never going to come back to, just for no good reason. It's just me. Now, I do a much better job at both corralling them and keeping them together and also in ditching them. I use the building, the double 90-degree turn method, where you keep them a fair distance behind you, and then you turn the corner, and then you go down the wall, and you turn the corner again, and you start sneaking. I did cut that corner a little bit tighter than I needed to. It's a good idea to go around corners like that with a little bit of space in front of you, just in case there's a zombie right around the corner. I did give myself enough time to panic react if I needed to, but, you know, there was no reason that I would even need to give myself that kind of reaction check. If I just approach it from a more shallow angle, then there's no chance of getting ambushed by zombies around the corner. And don't think I'm being overly critical of myself just for the sake of being overly critical. It's important when you're playing this kind of game to be able to self-critique so that you can learn from your mistakes. There's no way that you're going to get better at them if you can't do that. Now, the military boots and the hard hat are great finds. They have 100% scratch and bite resistance for both areas of the body. Probability is low that you're going to get bitten or scratched in the head or the feet, but it does happen. It can save your life. Now what I'm doing here is I'm taking inventory of my food and liquid supplies. I've got the slightly hungry and slightly thirsty moodlets. Now something worth noting is that my eyes are still on the ground around my character while I'm doing this. I'm using peripheral vision to glance at my backpack to kind of get a rough gauge of what my supplies look like right now. You'll see me doing this kind of thing quite a lot in this run. I actually wouldn't recommend it as a new player. The only reason I'm able to get away with doing this kind of thing is because I've been playing the game for about 10 years. The icons are all super easy for me to recognize just from being exposed to them so much, and aren't going to distract me from more pressing matters such as, you know, zombies. Something worth doing, and something that I see even experienced players forgetting to do quite a bit, is to check the zombie corpses. Just check all of them unless it's really inconvenient. Like right here, I'm not going to be completely aware of everything that my character is wearing. I'm not going to spend the mental energy on that. So just opening up the zombie's inventory and panning over the jacket and seeing the green numbers told me that I didn't have a leather jacket yet, and leather jackets are a really good early game protective gear. And you really want to be searching for the electronic watches and just picking them up whenever you can in the early game anyway. We finally made it inside the sporting goods store. It's important to keep quiet because we haven't scouted the neighboring buildings. There could be groups of them in there. Ideally, I'll put a baseball bat on my back and then equip one in two hands, just like we tried to do near the beginning of the game. If we have enough room, we'll try to put a third one in the backpack, although I don't think we'll have enough room. And if there aren't enough baseball bats, I'll use the hockey or lacrosse sticks as substitutes. Baseball bats are my personal favorite. They're not quite as long as the lacrosse and hockey sticks, but they do, I think, a little bit better damage, and they last a little bit longer, and you can put nails in them to turn them into spiked bats. As suspected, we don't have enough room. I'm going to go ahead and take inventory of the rest of the building, and then I'm going to head next door to the deli to take care of the hunger and thirst moodlets. Now that we have the best weapons we can hope for and we're good and stocked up on food and water, the next step to transition from the early game to the mid game is to secure a vehicle. At this point in time, there is no matter that is more pressing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sneak around to the different parking lots in the immediate area. I'm going to search the ground around the vehicles. Sometimes there are keys on the ground. I'm going to enter all of the vehicles and check all of the glove boxes. If I need to, I'll smash out the passenger side windows. And I'm going to fight all of the zombies that are kind of close to the vehicles. Sometimes the zombies that initially spawn on day one close to vehicles will have the keys for them. I'm going to make my way towards the gas station slash police station, and I'm probably going to end up sleeping in the police station. Excellent, we found a gas can. So now what we'll do is we'll go straight to the gas station. We probably won't even go inside the gas station. We're going to fill up the gas can and probably sleep inside of the police station. You can also sleep inside of vehicles, and it's not too terribly high of a risk on the first day like this, even in town, since you're unlikely to get woken up by a horde. They'll be banging on the window. They won't attack you while you're sleeping. They won't attack you until you wake up, but they can bang on the window, and if you are woken up like that, you can scoot to the other side of the vehicle and exit out the other door. It is a risk, though, as if there's too many zombies around the vehicle, then you just won't be able to get out. At least not without getting bit or scratched. And on top of that, you won't get a full night's sleep, since the zombie banging on the window will wake you up. Now, it's worth noting that this character has the cat eyes positive trait. I include it on pretty much every character now, because it makes this kind of situation where you need to sneak around at night, maybe even fight a little bit at nighttime, it makes it a lot safer and easier to do. For 2 points, it's really beneficial. If you're playing a character without cat eyes, you really want to be inside and ready to settle down for the night before the sun is down like this. Unfortunately, I don't have the room for the gun or the ammo right now. Guns and ammunition are really useful in the late game. You need to give them a low priority in the early game. If I had a holster right now, I might put the pistol on the holster because then it would be practically weightless, but I still wouldn't be able to grab the ammunition. Once I have a vehicle up and running, I will grab pretty much every gun and every bullet that I find. You can use them for kiting since they're so loud, especially shotguns and rifles, but it's not something that you can't do without a vehicle. Like the horn on the vehicle makes plenty of noise. It is worth your time to grind up the skill for them in the late game so that you can really quickly dispatch huge groups of zombies. You'll pull hundreds of them sometimes, but if your skill's built up, you'll be able to take out the amount that you pull. That's something I'm probably going to end up doing later on in this run. You gotta be really careful when you're filling up these gas cans. I've lost a few characters to zombies being pretty quiet while I'm filling them up and sneaking up on me. This build has the keen hearing trait, so we don't have to worry about any of them sneaking up from behind us, but they can still pop around corners, and unfortunately these gas pumps are tall enough and wide enough to block off visibility. Now, filling up the gas can did push us from a medium load to a heavy load. Medium loads don't bother you so much, but heavy loads slow you down quite a bit. I'm scarfing down some food as a temporary fix because when you're well fed, you get a strength bonus. In hindsight, the smartest thing to do here probably would be to use the trunk of this car to act as a temporary storage container for things like the books. Since I know I'm going to be coming back here anyway, that would have been the smart thing to do. Okay, so there aren't any beds inside of this building, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab the chair over here and we're going to drag it into another room, probably the restroom, and sleep in there. Now, I don't like to have myself cornered like that if I can help it, because there is a chance that zombies could break through the windows in the night and come straight for me for whatever reason. Now, the sound of a zombie banging on the window of the building that you're sleeping in typically wakes you up and puts you in a panic state. So if we do wake up in a panic state, we're going to book it out of here. Now, if you're wanting to see whether or not that happens, tune in for the next episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. My plan is to do a Zomboid episode about once a week.